Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is David Talbot. I'm Managing Director and Head of Research at Red Cloud Securities, and I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on uranium today. And we are joined by Labrador Uranium Chairman and Interim CEO Phil Williams. Now, during today's webinar, he will provide an overview and outlook of the company, and then we will take some questions, so you can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can. But before we kick things off, first we need to discuss the fine print. During this Labrador Uranium webinar, forward-looking statements may be made, and I direct listeners to the forward-looking statements outlined on page 2 of its corporate presentation. That can be found on the company's website, labradoruranium.com. For Red Cloud Securities, I'd highlight this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note this call does not consider the particular situation or need of individual investors, and participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. So please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures on Labrador uranium. So with that, I now turn it over to Phil to update the audience on Labrador. Take it away, Phil.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to Red Cloud for hosting us on this webinar today. Here to talk about Labrador uranium. Our tagline is we're advancing and exploring a proven uranium district. We're located in the central mineral belt of Labrador, which is a prolific belt and includes some very large uranium deposits, including historic resources that we have as a company. Dave mentioned the forward-looking statements, the disclaimer. But what I'd like to do is just start with a kind of overview, the key value drivers of the company. Labrador is a relatively new company in the space. We took it public early last year, and it was launched by a combination of companies, Consolidated Uranium, which I also serve as the CEO of, Altius Minerals, and Mega Uranium. We all contributed projects to the company, and I'll walk you through exactly who contributed what. And these groups have a particular track record of creating and financing and advancing uranium companies. I think many of you would be familiar with those companies. Since the inception, we've brought on a significant group of technical experts specializing in using modern exploration techniques to explore large project areas like the one that we have. And we have experience both in Labrador, but also in the types of deposits that we're looking for, which are uranium, of course, and IOCG deposits. This district, and we'll talk a lot more about it, is a great area to be exploring for uranium and other commodities. The belt that we have is extremely prolific and that we're in, and our land position is extremely large at over 152,000 hectares. We have resources in place with potential for expansion and potential for significant new discoveries, again, both in uranium and IOCG. And we think the timing of this opportunity is very good. Presumably people on the call are here because they're interested in uranium and see the same opportunity that we do in terms of the trajectory for uranium prices going forward. Here's the cap table. We have 70 million shares outstanding and just over $10 million in cash in the bank. A significant portion of that is flow-through funds and earmarked for exploration this year. We have just over a $7 million budget plan for this year. The shares are very broadly held, but some of those original founders continue to be investors in the company, shareholders in the company, Altius and Mega Uranium. The shares that Consolidated Uranium got as part of that original formation were all distributed to Consolidated Uranium shareholders. Talk a little bit about the team. Of course, I'm on the board and serving as interim CEO. On the board, we also have uranium experts. The CEO of Mega Uranium, Richard Patricio, has been in the space for a long time. Justin Reed is on the board. Justin has a vast experience in mining and uranium, but also worked at Paladin, who is the owner of the major resource in our camp, the Michelin project, and he was there when they made that acquisition. We also have significant financial expertise on the board in Bridget, and the technical team, which is based in St. John's, Labrador, has very good experience both in uranium. Many of them come out of Saskatchewan, but also in structural exploration and in using machine learning, which is an important part of our story to evaluate large data sets and large project areas. So why Labrador? I mean, Labrador is a very highly ranked jurisdiction for mining. You see it ranks very highly with the Fraser Institute. There's existing mines there, significant infrastructure, and it's a very politically stable environment. Importantly, it's underexplored, and we think there's a lot of potential for new discovery in the region. Zooming in on our project, talk about the Central Mineral Belt. We call our project the CMB project. It's a very significant camp, prolific. There's large uranium projects, and there's a lot of potential for new discovery, as we talked about, both for uranium and for copper. Here's our project area. Again, a very large land package, and it was amassed through the combination of our project, which was the Moran Lake project. The large property package was brought into the company through Altius, and then Mega put in the Mustang Lake project. And when we look at this entire trend, the most significant deposit is the Michelin deposit, which I've referred to. That is held now by Paladin, and in the various deposits that they have there, it's on the order of 130 million pounds of uranium. So there's significant resources already in the camp. And on our own project, we have the Moran Lake deposit, which we'll talk about a bit more in a second. It's got historic resources, and our drill program that we completed last year it showed that there's significant potential for extending that. And recently we acquired the Anna Lake deposit, which is to the northeast, on the northeast side of our claim block, closer to Michelin, and there's a historic resource there that we're looking to do some exploration work on this year. So we have this dual track strategy, which we're trying to articulate here. So track one is define and extend the historic uranium and vanadium resources. Haven't mentioned that yet, and you'll see that when we get to the resource table for Moran Lake. We have a significant endowment of vanadium. Uranium and vanadium do come together quite often around the world. And in fact, on an in-ground value basis, our vanadium resources are actually more valuable than the uranium is today. And we think that there's potential to expand both resources, both at Moran Lake and the Anna Lake deposit. And then more broadly, we're looking to confirm the district scale potential through new discoveries, whether that's at Mustang Lake, which is an area that has some previous drilling with uranium in intercepts, but also through the entire land position. And it's a longer iterative process, but we expect to generate targets and update the market on that very soon. So let's drill right down to Moran Lake. This is a project that saw significant exploration work between 2006 and 2013 during the sort of big bull market in the uranium space. Over $25 million has been spent on the project, by historic operators. And you can see there in the bottom right-hand side of the slide, those are the existing resources. And in all categories, it's about 10 million pounds of uranium and just over 130 million pounds of vanadium. And the resource sits in two different areas, the upper C zone and the lower C zone. Those will be important when we talk about the results that we got from last year on the next slide. And that drill program, which we announced the assay results from today, was really designed to test the potential for expanding the resources in the Moran Lake area. So let's go right into that. These are the results that we released today. There's a press release, of course, with a lot more detail than what we're going to talk about today. But I think this gives you a very good sense of what we did. So on the map, all the stars indicate the holes that we drilled last year. So we drilled 6 holes for just almost 2,200 meters. The bulk of those holes were designed to test the continuation of the mineralization from the C zone, which you can see sort of in the center of the map. And the red blobs are where the historic resources that we referenced in the previous slide are. And you can see that in the C zone corridor, to the west, to the far west, there's a pod of mineralization called Trout Pond, and Trout Pond's about 500,000 pounds, and the bulk of the rest of the resource sits in that C zone corridor. And so our geologist took the view that in this A1 corridor that you can see outlined on the map, there's a potential for the mineralization to continue. And so we put 5 holes there to test, and 3 out of the 5 holes returned mineralization at or above the grade of the resource. and consistent widths to what we have in the resource area. So that's very encouraging. What was additionally encouraging, and we talk about the upper and the lower C zone in hole 200, which you can see is just on the western and southwestern end of the C zone itself. Our geologists had an idea that the upper C zone and the lower C zone may coalesce at depth, and so we let that hole drill through the upper zone, which is the zone that drilled, which in the highlights here, you can see it drilled 1.11% uranium over 1.3 meters from approximately 55 meters depth. And when we let the drill run, we actually intersected multiple discrete zones of mineralization over a wider envelope, including much higher grades at 0.31% over half a meter from 228 meters, and several other zones of interesting uranium within a sort of 70-meter package. This is a bit of an aha moment for the project, and it's the first and only hole that shows this kind of mineralization over this kind of width. And so it's certainly an area that we want to follow up this year, and our team is busy preparing a program and interpreting this data to figure out how to best follow up on it. And then in hole 201, in sort of more closer to the center there, and 204, about 1.5 kilometers away from the main C zone area, over in the trout pond area, we also intersected mineralization. So I think in summary, these are very encouraging results, and what it's showing us is that the potential to connect the mineralization between the C zone and the trout pond resource is real and needs to be followed up. It's a complicated structural environment, and so we need to spend a lot of time analyzing the results from this program and other data that we have to determine where to put the drill holes next year or this summer, pardon me, but this will be a big focus of the exploration campaign this year. Now we'll move to Anna Lake. This is again a project that we acquired recently. It has an existing in-ground resource of uranium and of course a few other metals as well. We think there's potential to expand there. What's particularly interesting about this area is we held, previous to the acquisition, we acquired the claim in yellow. We hold all the ground along strike to the northeast and the southwest, and we certainly think there's other targets to follow up there. Again, this is and particularly because this resource is quite close to Michelin. It's an area of keen interest. We're watching the work that Paladin's doing at the Michelin project very closely. They've been talking more about it in their disclosure, and we expect them to get more active on this side of the CMB, and any success that they have or work towards advancement of their project that they have, I think bodes well for what we might find and how we might be able to tie in the Anna Lake area to what their development plans are. Talk about a little bit about Mustang Lake. This is an area that's been previously drilled. There's no resource, there's no historic resource here, but very encouraging drill results. We're preparing for a geophysical program here to help vector in on additional drill targets, and so we think this is a very interesting project. And if I'll just flip back to the previous slide, you can see this project, Mustang Lake, is also very proximal to the Michelin deposit. Again, making discoveries and expanding on resources in and around the Michelin area, I think, is a very important part of our strategy. And then, putting this together, and when we came up with the idea of creating Labrador and bringing all of these projects together, we did this for a reason. In the previous bull market, there was a very successful company called Aurora Energy that came into this belt based on an existing historic resource and spent a significant amount of time and energy drilling it out and was able to make significant returns for investors. So we show a chart here of Aurora Energy. It went from a couple of $100 million market cap company to north of $1 billion market company in just a few years in the bull market, of course, of 06, 07, but on the back of taking existing resources and expanding them. So they started with circa 35 million pounds of uranium. They grew it to 130 million pounds, and the market rewarded them. That is the plan. That is the game plan for Labrador. And so I think this graph is pretty instructive to the kinds of potential returns we can have. A, if we're successful in expanding resources, and B, if the uranium market, of course, goes the way that we think it's going to. And you can see on this chart, uranium prices peaked at almost $140 in early 2007. This project was ultimately acquired by Paladin for $260 million. So when we talk about catalysts for 2023, we're going to undertake a district-wide airborne gravity survey. And so that large land position, we've really got to start understanding the potential. And first step for us is this gravity survey. We believe that this will highlight some very interesting targets for us and allow us to zoom in on what we're going to call project areas, both for copper and uranium. And so there'll be a lot more to talk about in the coming months on that side of it. We're busy working on compiling all of the Anna Lake historic data, identifying targets to drill there and potentially expand that resource and find other targets along strike from Anna Lake. This grassroots uranium and LCG targeting and project generation will also include machine learning and artificial intelligence. Again, lots more to talk about on that front in the coming months. And then the big program will be the follow-up drilling at Moran Lake. As I mentioned off the bat, we're well funded to execute on that, and we'll have a lot more information to share with the market on the details of those plans again in the coming months. So in summary, it's a district scale opportunity in a very well-known multi-commodity metal belt in a great jurisdiction. We have the historic resource base with now, based on our drilling, verified expansion potential. We have a very good shareholder base. Beyond the ones that we saw on the chart, we have a very strong list of institutional investors that have supported the story from the beginning, and we're led by a proven team of uranium, finance, and exploration management team. So, David, that is the update on Labrador.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Phil. Great presentation as always. We're going to kick off the Q&A session now. Please, anybody online, you can type your questions into the chat box anytime. So, Phil, you mentioned Aurora Energy. That was actually my very first uranium coverage company in 2007, until it was bought by Newmont and then sold to Paladin. So, not to have you speak for others, but does Paladin have any plans for that project right now? Is it active? Because that project is sitting almost on top of your claims. It's right there to the east.
Yeah, I mean, David, honestly, I might ask you the same question. You may be even more familiar. I can tell you that on the ground, we're not seeing a lot of activity from them. Of course, in the public domain, they're talking about plans and work that they might want to do on that project. We're watching closely because we do believe that they are coming back to the camp, and when they do, I think that'll be very, very positive for Labrador.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think they're probably a little bit more focused on getting their Langer Heinrich mine back into production right now than they are on this one. So, but that is just speculation. I no longer cover that company either. So now you're using machine learning. You mentioned that a couple times, and that's going to help you target your drill holes. Can you maybe explain a little bit of what that entails? And as you collect more data, should we expect improved targeting?
Yeah, and look, I think it's on the machine learning comes in on a few aspects. So the first thing that I think people that are listening to understand is this is a belt that has for the first time been consolidated by us. So when that uranium boom was happening and Aurora was doing what they were doing, drilling out Michelin, there were 10 different companies owning land position in the area. They all did their own work. And there's a huge amount of data available. So the first step is compiling all that data and putting it into one place, and then it's such a vast amount of data that you need to use tools to interpret it. And so that's really where the machine learning and the AI comes in, and what it's going to show us. And of course, with additional data that we're bringing in, both from our drill programs, our on the ground work, and then this district-wide gravity survey. It will not only identify potential areas to drill now, and what we're really talking about is areas in and around, say, Moran Lake, where we can find new pods of mineralization to add to the resources and grow that area. But then new areas where that might be prospective far afield from what we have, both for uranium and for IOCG potential deposits or discoveries. And really what the machine learning will do is it'll identify the project areas, and then we'll have to go in and do ground truthing and do additional work. And it might involve more detailed ground geophysics. It's going to involve soil sampling, mapping, etc. But so I think the drill targeting will really be more focused in and around the existing resources, and the machine learning will be used to zero in on these project areas in the larger package, because it's so big. You need a tool to get you to a spot, and then you're going to do on the ground work to try to vector in from there.
Right. Okay. That's a perfect segue into a question that I had later on, but I'll bring it up here. You know, the Central Mineral Belt, huge potential. It's a big land area. Besides uranium, vanadium, there is huge IOCG, which is iron ore, copper, gold potential there. Will you take any time to search for base metals or even rare earths or anything besides uranium or vanadium?
Yeah, our focus is uranium, of course, but we're running the tools to try to identify these IOCG areas. This is the reason that people came into this camp in the first place, and we believe the potential is huge. But these types of styles of deposits, they're not easy to find, particularly in this kind of environment. There's not a huge amount of outcrop, so you need tools that let you look beneath the ground. Again, that gravity survey will be important for that, and certainly, you know, we're very interested in copper. I mean, copper's making you know, not new highs, but getting very close to old highs recently at 420, 429, whatever it is today. And we believe that the potential is very strong. And so we will certainly be talking about copper a lot more as we go forward. Again, it's project generation within a very large land package. And so it's going to take some time, but we're making incremental steps as we go here. And I expect that we're going to be deploying people this summer to areas that we think are prospective based on the machine learning work that's being done and that gravity survey that will also be done.
Right. Now, last year was a little bit challenging from an exploration point of view, you know, trying to get your new drill program going in a new jurisdiction. Certainly the hurricane didn't help the matters either. When should we expect your drill program to begin? I think it's Moran Lake. And should we expect a more expansive program this year, more news flow?
I would say absolutely on that front. We're still making the final preparations for the exact number of holes and location, but I think it's definitely going to be more than it is this year, particularly because we have more targets. Not only with what we've just seen from Moran Lake, we know that there's a lot more drilling to do there, but also potentially at Anna Lake. It is a challenging environment. It's a small window, and we went from becoming a public company in late February to being on the ground and getting our inaugural program done last summer. And yeah, the hurricane didn't help, and we had a few other teething pains as we launched that first program. We're going to learn from all the lessons last year, but I think you're going to see us on the ground. I would say May, June timetable, and getting a lot more meters done. But again, and I think what we're going to be again, because of all the lessons that we learned last year, and that we have the full team in place, and all the planning is happening right now. I think the most important thing that you're going to see is a very steady communication with the market as to what we're doing, why we're doing it, how many holes we're going to drill, where those holes are going to come. And so people will have a good understanding of the program before, during, and after.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you did put out those new results today on Moran Lake, both the upper C, lower C zones. You think you can extend those, maybe connect between the dots, between different deposits. How are you going to drill that project this year? Are you going to go from known to unknown? Are you looking for discoveries? Are you trying to grow the resource?
Both. So based on what we've seen this year, I think the plan, and we're a little premature today. We're just, we're just getting all this information in, and the team is busy working towards making the specific drill plans. But our current idea is that we go from what we know around Moran Lake and step away from the known, because it is very structurally complicated. You can go too far away and miss it, and because it might have gone a different direction. So I think it'll be gradual steps away from what we know. But then I do think we're going to spend quite a bit of time looking for those new discoveries in that, general Morin area along the trend, because, this is something that we'd like to take from sort of, whatever you think, whatever the equivalent number of pounds is today, when you put the vanadium, circa 30 million pounds, we want to grow that significantly in order to show that this is an area where ultimately a mine could be.
Right. And similarly, I guess, Anna Lake and Mustang, will you be combining those project areas moving forward, sort of thinking of it as one, perhaps moving your Anna knowledge forward to catch up with Mustang?
Yeah, I think with Anna Lake, the opportunity is really on trend. So by getting and bringing that resource into the fold, and all the data particularly, we're going to get very smart at what to look for along trend from Anna Lake and see what other opportunities there are. And we now control all the ground to the northeast and the southwest from Anna Lake. Mustang, we're quite optimistic about it. The next thing there is to do a geophysical survey and identify where the drill targets could be. I don't know if we're ever going to have them as one project, but they're certainly in proximity that they can be worked on easily from the same staging location, I would say.
Right. Okay. And Altius and Mega Uranium, they're shareholders. They owned various parts of the property before Labrador picked them up. Do you have any input, do they have any input as to what your exploration plans are for those projects? Are they helping you out?
Definitely. Altius has been a tremendous help. Many of the members of the team that we have been brought on and introduced by the Altius guys. This is their backyard. If you want to get anything done in Newfoundland, Labrador, partnering up with a group like Altius is the perfect partner. They've been working here for decades. So absolutely, and we're in regular communication and contact with them, and they've been very helpful. Mega takes a different approach. They're more of an investment fund, and their support is largely backing us financially and investing in the company. But Richard Patricio is on the CEO of Mega, is on the board, so he's taking a very active role in the company. But his experience is more on the uranium financial market side versus the on the ground work in Labrador. So it's a really good sort of blend of support that we get from both of those shareholders.
Right. Okay. And I guess, have you had any desire of expanding your exploration reach outside of Labrador? While the Athabasca Basin is fairly busy, I think a lot of investors are familiar with it. They like the high grade potential that it offers. Why would you look elsewhere, or conversely, why should investors look to Labrador instead?
So I think the short answer is yes, David. I mean, it's we as a group are always looking at new opportunities. We've been around for a long time in the space, and if you've seen, of course, what Consolidated has done in terms of bringing projects in around the world, it's not off the table for Labrador, and it's not gone unnoticed to us. For example, the success that Fission 3.0 has had making a new discovery just recently in the basin, and it's a very attractive area for us. And I think that some of the things that we have within our company, whether it's the technical team, the access to capital, and the public markets experience, it might be very complementary for some other groups. And so certainly those are the things on our radar. But obviously our focus right now is on following up the success of last year's program in Labrador. And we're very confident that this is a bona fide uranium camp. Michelin is a sizable resource, and there will ultimately be a mine there. And so there's a lot of value to create for ourselves in Labrador. And so that will continue to be a focus. But certainly we can cast our mind further afield and think there's definitely opportunities that could make sense for the company.
Right. Okay. And you do have a pretty deep team technically, and besides being chairman, you are now filling in as interim CEO. So, do you have a search underway for somebody new, and what might your perfect candidate look like?
So yes, the search is on, and I think the reason that I stepped back in is that we want to find the right person, and we wanted to and this is a very important company to the group. Consolidated Uranium not being a shareholder per se, but it was created out of our office and out of our company, and we believe in the potential of it. So I've come back in to help sort of shepherd the company through and find that right person. And I think it's a combination. We have very strong technical people, and we'd be happy to get more expertise on the technical side at the CEO, but also financial markets, and particularly if, as you say, going further afield and looking at other opportunities. Certainly be interested in a candidate that feels comfortable in that environment.
Perfect. Okay. Well, with that, Phil, I think I want to wrap it up, and thank you for joining us today with Labrador Uranium.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Hey, thank you everybody else for tuning in. Just a reminder, the Red Cloud Securities will be back tomorrow afternoon when Kobe sits down with Silver Viper Minerals. That's January 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much.